Hey everyone, and welcome back. Now today I want to talk about SUI because we're starting to see a move up on SUI, and even though the market's looking generally relatively bad, I want to talk a little bit about could this potentially be the next move up, because things are looking really quite good, and it's looking like we've seen a strong bounce kind of off the bottom. So anyway, I want to take a look at kind of what that looks like. But before we did that, I did want to take an overall look into the market, because as we can see, kind of almost everything down here. We can see SEI doing quite well. SUI also up pretty well today. We can see there's only a couple up, and so SUI being the one of them is obviously a pretty good look. Injective, Phantom, Theta, and Algo kind of being the others. But overall, not a great day in the market. We have seen a little bit of a pullback kind of just throughout everything. If we do look at the week though, things are still pretty strong green overall. We are seeing obviously some more reds kind of trickled in. The past couple weeks, basically things have kind of mostly been up only, but we've started to see that kind of come back a little bit, and so we are seeing that here, with some of these. So we are kind of seeing meme coins kind of lead the way down, as they typically do. We have seen a lot of moves in the meme coins, and so we've kind of seen that market retrace a little bit. I would imagine, just kind of based on how the market's unfolded so far, we will see another pretty strong push to the upside for meme coins, but this is just kind of a normal part of the process, at least with what we've been seeing so far. So moving on, I want to take a look at the SUI chart, because there's a couple things that I want to focus on. So the first thing is, obviously, we made the first run up, a little bit of a pullback, second run up, a little bit of a pullback. It's hard to say if this is the kind of the start of a future move up. We did kind of see something like this happen, but then we kind of continued to pull back a little bit before we saw kind of the sustained move to the upside. So it is possible that we see something like that happening. We can see that on this level of support, well, we actually broke through it, and now it is a point of resistance. We've run up into it. We broke through kind of momentarily, but we have wicked down a little bit. Whether we actually kind of maintain this or not, if we zoom in a little bit, whether we actually kind of maintain the momentum and kind of break through this resistance again and turn it into a support, obviously remains to be seen. But we can see a little bit of a nice recovery based on this move down that we saw. We did see at all-time highs, almost just barely shy of $4, coming all the way back down to just under $3 at kind of the wick lows. And so a decent move back, about 25%. I would say that this is probably a sufficient move back for us to maybe start to see a continuation to the upside. I do think it is possible, just given kind of what we're seeing in the wider market, with things just kind of being down overall, pessimism starting to enter a little bit. First off, I think this is a good thing. I think the market needed to kind of cool off a little bit from what we were seeing. Things got ridiculously bullish way too fast, in my opinion, and so starting to see things kind of level out a little bit, in my opinion, I'm happy to see that. Obviously, I love to be making money just as much as everybody else, but when we see something like that type of move, it's just not really sustainable in my opinion. So the fact that we are starting to see things level is a good thing. We are seeing that I would imagine SUI probably does another one of this thing, maybe a little bit of a gap up and then kind of further consolidation or a move down. We may have already seen the lows if this is kind of an example, but again, I don't have a crystal ball. Nobody knows the future for sure. And so just kind of taking a look at this, it's really impossible to say. But overall, kind of the TLDR main point of this is SUI still does look to be kind of in a really good spot. I mean, they're looking to lead the market. We're going to be looking at some stats here in a second that kind of show exactly that. Overall, things looking good for SUI. We can also see on the RSI, it's pulled back, not quite to the middle, but pretty good. I mean, it's got a decent chunk before we get back into kind of the oversold or the overbought range, so things are kind of looking good there. What we can also see here is volume holding pretty steady. We did see kind of a general uptick in volume kind of going into November. We have seen that volume hold. I would say overall, obviously there's been a little bit of a slump in volume, but things overall kind of looking pretty strong. If you are interested or wanting to trade SUI, you can feel free to use the link in my description below for BTCC. BTCC I am working with for the month of November. They put together a really, really great offer. We can see a 10% bonus on first-time deposits. This is in addition to the extra bonuses you already get of $10,000 to $55 per user, just for essentially volume incentives, KYC, some of those types of things. So if you are interested, feel free to do that. I mean, it's really, really, really good deal. If you were essentially to deposit in $10,000, you would effectively get another $1,000 for you to spend, kind of in addition to everything else. So obviously great deal. If you are going to be trading, you might as well get 10% extra money to do it anyway. They do have up to 300 plus crypto futures. They have been around for 13 years. So this is not one of those kind of pop-up exchanges that only comes around during the bull market. They've been around through thick and thin for a very, very long time. Frankly, probably longer than most of us have, if I'm being honest. So, I mean, definitely like an OG in the space. Up to 500x leverage if you are interested. I would not recommend 500x leverage, but it is there if you have some strategy that maybe I'm not aware of. But also no VPN or KYC necessary if that's something that you're also concerned about and don't want to be giving out your information. So anyway, really, really good deal. If you are interested, just feel free to click on the link in the description. Now, I want to take one last look at the chart before we kind of start to move into some of the more fundamental data. But what we can see here is if we zoom out, we can see that things are looking pretty decent with the Bollinger Bands. We did see a little bit of a consolidation here. Usually, again, when we see the Bollinger Bands squeeze, there is usually a breakout one side or the other. Obviously, we saw a move to the upside. It's not ever a guarantee that it's going to move to the upside when we see a squeeze like that. It just usually means that volatility is coming. Given that we're in a bull market, if we're looking at kind of playing the odds, I would expect probably more often than not we're going to see a break to the upside. Similarly, if we're in a bear market, I would probably expect to see a break to the downside. But again, there's no guarantee there. This is just kind of an indicator that we might be seeing some volume soon, which obviously we did. We are starting to see the Bollinger Bands kind of squeeze a little bit, not even close to where we would need to see kind of something like this happening again. But we could kind of pull a similar type of move here where we just kind of range for a little bit, maybe even through the end of the year potentially, and then we could see those Bollinger Bands really squeeze down. What we are seeing is kind of the Bollinger Band midpoint sitting very, very close to price, almost exactly the same, but not quite. Price sitting a little bit above that Bollinger Band. So overall, things looking good here. Now, moving on, I want to start taking a look into some of the data that we're seeing coming out of SUI, because at least if you ask me, you can essentially make investments like purely off of TA. I mean, I know several people who that works for. I tend to look a little bit more at like the fundamental analysis as well, because I feel like there's kind of, it's two sides of the same coin. And so looking at the fundamental analysis, we can see still things looking really, really good for SUI. We can see year to date, almost up, we're at 32 billion. Year to date, we're up 30 billion. I mean, that's like, what is that, like a 16x increase year over year? Insane amount of volume coming into the SUI ecosystem. You can even see, I mean, mainly since June is when it really started to pick up, but really even since October, we've kind of seen that J curve kind of move on to the upside. So things looking really, really good for DEX trading volume on SUI. If we continue to move over to DeFi Llama, we can see similar types of things going through kind of all the different stats. We can see volume really, really going nuts. It's actually kind of come down a little bit recently. I think given kind of the lack of interesting price movement, that makes a little bit of sense. But overall, I mean, things still looking really good. TVL kind of taking a little bit of a dip, but I mean, obviously still up massive from what we saw even at the beginning of November. And so I do think TVL, this is something that will continue to trend upwards. As we've seen in the past, when things go up, it does come down for a little bit of retracement. This is normal. This is not something that I find super concerning. We just want to see kind of that overall macro uptrend. And so realistically, if we were to continue that, anything essentially above $1 billion would kind of keep that macro uptrend. I don't think it would fall that far, but it could. You never know, right? I mean, this is not financial advice. This is just me kind of going over what I'm seeing in the market and my opinions. I could be just as wrong as anybody else. So just keep that in mind. Obviously, you want to do your own research and make sure that you're comfortable with the decisions that you're making when you go in and take a look at these types of things. Just because overall, I'm just over here analyzing the data, looking at kind of what it says, and maybe it's right, maybe it's wrong. And so, overall, I think we've had a pretty good track record so far, but again, just like every single investment disclosure or any sort of a disclosure relating to stock says, past performance is not an indicator of future returns. And so, that's kind of how we're looking at things here. If we do look at stablecoins, this is something that I've wanted to kind of keep up on. And we can see here, let's actually just look at stablecoins only. Stablecoins only at about 300 million in market cap. Not great. I mean, I would love to see, kind of a more uptrend here, because with the stablecoins coming onto the market, that essentially, to me at least, means that we're seeing more of like a stable and like reasonable reason to essentially hold money on the network, right? If the network's mooning and things are going crazy and people are just like massively speculating on stuff, that's good, obviously, for short-term price movement, but it's not necessarily building the value of the network fundamentally. And so one of the ways I like to look at kind of fundamental value of the network is how many people are willing to keep their stable coins on the network, right? I mean, that to me is kind of a decent way. Obviously, it's not a perfect way to look at it, but it's a decent way to look at it. And so that is one thing that I like to keep an eye on. We can see no real uptrend here. I mean, we started in February with 314. We're at 333 right now. Obviously, kind of peaks and valleys along the way, but I would like to see kind of more of a general uptrend here to see kind of some of that long-term like value accretion of the network. So one thing I'm keeping an eye on, basically everything else in SUI does look really, really good, but stablecoins is one that I want to keep a closer eye on overall. So hopefully you found the information in this video useful. If you did, please do give me a like and subscribe, because it really does help me out, especially getting pushed further into the YouTube algorithm and showing other people the SUI videos as well as other videos that I make too. So if it was helpful, please do that. It really does help me out. Also, if you have any comments, questions, concerns, anything that you want to like clarify, things like that, just feel free to drop those in the comment section below. I do try to read and respond to all of those. So if you have anything you want me to see, that'd probably be the best way to do it. Thank you guys for tuning in, and we'll see you in the next video.